The explosion hit before anyone saw it coming. Riley dropped flat behind the rubble pile, ears ringing, smoke filling her lungs. 3 seconds later, she was up and running toward the screaming. Torres lay sprawled in the crater, his left leg bent wrong, blood pooling fast. Beside him, tangled in the same blast radius, was something that definitely shouldn't have been there. A small creature, maybe 3 feet long, covered in pale blue fur matted with orange blood. It writhed and shrieked, a sound like metal scraping metal. "Medic!" someone shouted, but Riley was already moving. She hit her knees beside Torres, hands flying to his leg, tourniquet coming out of her pack. The creature thrashed closer, one of its small paws reaching toward the soldier. Riley shoved it back with her elbow while cinching the tourniquet tight. "Stay still," she barked at Torres. He nodded through gritted teeth. The creature screamed again. Riley glanced at it, deep gash across its side, something that looked like shrapnel embedded in its shoulder. Its large eyes, 3 pupils arranged in a triangle, fixed on her face. From somewhere above, a voice boomed in heavily accented English. "Human, step away from the cub." Riley didn't look up. She was packing Torres's wound now, her hands moving automatically through the procedure she'd done 100 times. "Kinda busy." Heavy footsteps thundered down metal stairs. A massive figure dropped into her peripheral vision. Kethron, the reptilian observer who'd been shadowing their unit all week. His bronze scales caught the emergency lighting as he moved toward the cub, his vertical pupils dilating with what might have been panic. His muscular frame tensed, arms reaching out. "The cub is priority," Kethron's voice cracked. "It is the commander's offspring." Riley jabbed the needle into Torres's arm, starting an IV line. "This soldier is bleeding out. The cub's stable for now." "Stable?" Kethron's head crest flared bright red. "It is wounded. You must." "I must stop this man from dying." Riley cut him off, turning back to Torres. "Then I'll look at your cub." The cub whimpered, dragging itself closer to Torres with its front paws. Its rear legs weren't working right. Riley registered this in the back of her mind while she checked Torres's vitals. Pulse thready but present. Breathing shallow. Leg tourniquet holding. Unacceptable. Kethron lunged forward, scales scraping against his armor plating. "The cub will live another 5 minutes." Riley pulled out her field suture kit, hands steady despite the chaos. "This guy won't." She started stitching the worst of Torres's leg wounds, working fast. The cub crawled right up against the soldier's side now, making sounds that might have been crying. Its triangular pupils were fixed on Riley's hands as she worked. Kethron paced behind her, his clawed feet clicking on concrete. "This is violation of protocol. The offspring of commanders receive immediate priority care and all. Not on my field station." Riley tied off a suture, moved to the next wound. "Everyone bleeds the same here." The creature pressed its small face against Torres's shoulder. Torres, despite his pain, moved his good arm to awkwardly pat its head. The cub went quiet. "Did your soldier just—" Kethron stopped pacing. His vertical pupils contracted to thin lines. "Why is he touching the cub?" "Comfort," Riley said absently, packing another wound. "Basic battlefield psychology. Helps with shock." "Comfort?" Kethron's voice rose an octave. "The cub is a predator species. It could—" The cub nuzzled deeper against Torres's side, making a sound like a purr mixed with a growl. Its small body relaxed slightly. Riley glanced at it. "Yeah, real terrifying." She secured the last bandage on Torres's leg. "Okay, your turn, furball." She shifted position, pulling the cub gently away from Torres. It resisted, small claws catching on the soldier's uniform. Riley pried them loose with practiced efficiency. "Easy, easy. I've got you." The cub twisted its head to look at her, all 3 pupils focusing independently then syncing together. It made a questioning chirp. "That's right, I'm helping now." Riley ran her hands over its body, checking for injuries. The gash was deep but clean. The shrapnel in its shoulder would need extraction. "Kethron, I need my supply crate." The blue one. Kethron stood frozen, his scaled face unreadable. "You're treating them together?" "I'm treating them in order of severity. Now give me that crate before I decide to see what color your blood is, too." The reptilian moved with surprising speed, his bronze scales flashing as he climbed toward the observation platform where supplies were stored. Riley turned back to her patients. Torres had his head tilted back, breathing through his nose. "That thing is kinda cute, actually." "Shut up and rest." Riley examined the cub's shoulder. "This is gonna hurt, buddy." She pulled the shrapnel out in one smooth motion. The cub screeched and spasmed, but Riley held it firm with one hand while packing the wound with the other. Its small teeth, definitely predator teeth, snapped near her wrist but didn't connect. "Good reflexes," Torres muttered. "For both of you." Riley was already stitching. The cub fought her for the first 2 sutures, then seemed to realize she was helping. It went still, those strange triangular pupils locked on her face. "That's better." Riley worked faster now, her hands sure and quick. See? Not so bad. Catherine crashed back down the stairs carrying the blue crate, his scales scraping against metal. He set it down hard enough to dent the floor. The medical supervisor is coming. She'll see 2 stabilized patients when she gets here. Riley pulled out antiseptic, cleaning the cub's wounds. The creature flinched but didn't pull away. Both alive, both treated, both going to be fine. You do not understand. Catherine's voice dropped low. The cub is Commander Zal's youngest offspring. He is the most decorated warrior in our fleet. When he finds out his cub was treated second, he'll find out his cub is alive because I kept a cool head and followed triage protocol. Riley wrapped a bandage around the small body. The cub tried to bite the bandage, failed, gave up. If I'd panicked and worked on the cub first, Torres would be dead. Then I'd have a dead soldier and a traumatized cub. This way everyone lives. The cub chirped again, softer this time. It looked at Torres, then back at Riley. It is making the bonding sound, Catherine said quietly. His scales had faded from bright red to a duller bronze. It thinks you are Pac. Great. Riley secured the last bandage. Pac medical officer. Add it to my resume. More soldiers were gathering now at the edges of the medical station. Parker stood near the entrance, his rifle slung over his shoulder, watching the scene with wide eyes. He caught Riley's glance and shook his head slowly, mouthing something that looked like, "You're insane." Riley ignored him and checked Torres's vitals again. Pulse stronger now, color returning to his face. The morphine was kicking in properly. The cub made a low rumbling sound, still pressed against Riley's leg. Its triangular pupils dilated and contracted in sequence, like it was trying to figure something out. Then it made a decision and grabbed the edge of Riley's pants with its small teeth, tugging gently. What now? Riley looked down at it. The cub released her pants and crawled back to Torres, making a series of chirps and clicks. It touched the soldier's good leg with one paw, then looked back at Riley expectantly. I think it wants you to check on him again, Torres said, his voice stronger now. Smart little thing. Riley moved closer, examining her work on Torres's leg. The bleeding had stopped completely. The stitches were holding. You're going to be fine, Torres. Just need to get you to the main medical facility for... Footsteps echoed from above, multiple sets, heavy and fast. Riley looked up to see an insectoid figure descending the stairs, her purple chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh lights. Compound eyes swept the scene. Mandibles clicked together rapidly, creating a sound like chattering teeth. Report, the insectoid Vriss, the medical supervisor said sharply. Her antennae twitched in different directions, independently scanning the area. Riley stood, pulling off her bloody gloves. 2 patients, blast injuries. Human soldier, severe leg trauma, tourniquet applied, major vessels intact, stable for transport. Non-human cub, deep laceration and shrapnel extraction, both wounds sutured and dressed, also stable. Vriss moved closer, her compound eyes examining Torres first, then the cub. Her mandibles clicked rapidly, the sound changing pitch. You triaged the human first. He was critical. The cub was serious but stable. The cub is Commander Zal's offspring. The cub had 5 minutes before it would bleed out. Torres had 2. Riley met those compound eyes without flinching. I made the call. Vriss's antennae went rigid, pointing straight up. Her mandibles stopped clicking. For several seconds, the only sound was the hum of generators and Torres's labored breathing. Then Vriss's mandibles resumed their clicking, faster now, almost like laughter. Your call was correct. By our own medical protocols, which Catherine seems to have forgotten. She turned her body toward the reptilian, her purple exoskeleton shifting to a darker shade. The human followed proper triage procedure. Catherine's head crest flared again, turning bright red. But the commander will be informed that his offspring survived because the human medic maintained professional discipline. Vriss bent down, examining Riley's suture work on the cub. Her mandibles opened and closed slowly, carefully inspecting each stitch. Excellent technique. Clean stitches, minimal scarring expected. You use the correct thread tension for young tissue regeneration. The cub chirped at Vriss, then looked back at Riley and made the same sound, louder this time. It is bonded to the human, Vriss observed, her antennae drooping slightly. This complicates matters significantly. Why? Riley started repacking her medical kit, organizing supplies by category. It'll forget about me in a few hours. No. Vriss straightened, her purple exoskeleton catching the light and reflecting it in prismatic patterns. Our young form permanent attachments to those who save them during critical injury. The cub will now consider you part of its family structure. This is instinctual, cannot be undone. Riley stopped packing, her hands frozen mid-motion. What? Congratulations, Torres said from his position on the ground, grinning despite the pain. You're a mom. Shut up, Torres. Parker laughed from the entrance, then tried to cover it with a cough. Other soldiers were gathering now, whispers spreading through the group. Riley could hear fragments. Treated the alien cub, chose the human over, going to be interesting. The cub crawled over to Riley's medical kit and started sniffing at it, its triangular pupils focusing on different items. It picked up a roll of bandages in its mouth and brought it to Riley, dropping it at her feet. Then it sat and looked up at her expectantly, making a questioning chirp. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," Riley muttered. "It thinks it's helping." "It is helping," Vriss said, her mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. "Cubs of this species begin learning pack roles very young. It recognizes you as medical provider and wants to assist. This is normal behavior for a bonded cub." "Fantastic." Riley picked up the bandage roll and put it back in her kit. The cub chirped happily and immediately grabbed another item, a pair of scissors this time. "No, no, no." Riley took the scissors away. "You can't have sharp things." The cub's pupils all contracted at once, creating a look that was surprisingly similar to a pout. It made a sad, whining sound. Torres laughed again, then groaned. Even alien kids know how to guilt trip. Heavy footsteps shook the entire medical station, stronger than before. Everyone looked up as a massive reptilian figure descended the stairs, each step deliberate and controlled. His bronze scales were darker than Kethron's, covered in old scars that formed patterns like ritual markings. Some scars were parallel lines, others circular, creating what looked like a living history written across his body. His vertical pupils swept the scene, settling on the cub. The entire medical station went silent, even the generators seemed to hum quieter. "Commander Jalvris," said, her mandibles clicking in what might have been a greeting or a warning. Her antennae flattened completely against her head. Zal ignored everyone else, moving straight to his offspring. He dropped to one knee, his scarred hands reaching out with surprising gentleness. The cub chirped and crawled toward him, but kept looking back at Riley every few seconds. "Explain." Zal's voice was deep enough to rattle equipment on the metal tables. "Why is my offspring bandaged by a human?" Riley stepped forward before Vriss could answer. "Because I'm the medic on duty, and your offspring was wounded in a blast that also injured one of my soldiers. I treated them both according to standard triage protocol." Zal's pupils contracted the slits. "You treated a human before my cub. I treated the critical patient first. Your cub had serious injuries but wasn't immediately life-threatening. My soldier was bleeding out. I made the call that kept both of them alive." The medical station went silent except for the generator hum. Kethrin's scales had gone pale, almost white. Vriss's antennae were completely flat against her head, her mandibles frozen half open. Torres had stopped breathing. Parker and the other soldiers at the entrance had gone completely still, hands drifting toward weapons they knew would be useless. Zal stood slowly, his full height making even Riley's tall frame look small. His scarred hand went to his belt, where something that might have been a weapon hung in a leather holster. The metal of it caught the light, some kind of ceremonial blade etched with symbols. The cub chirped urgently and dragged itself over to Riley, pressing against her leg despite its injuries. It looked up at its father and made the same bonding sound it had made earlier, but more insistent, more demanding. Zhao's pupils widened slightly. His hand moved away from his belt, fingers spreading open. He stared at Riley for a long moment, then at his offspring, then back at Riley. His scarred face shifted, muscles moving under scales in ways that suggested complex emotion. "My cub has chosen," he said finally, his voice slightly softer but still resonant. "It recognizes you as pack healer. I'm just doing my job. You prioritized correctly. You remained calm under pressure. You treated both patients with equal skill despite the political implications." Zal's scarred face might have been attempting something like a smile, though it was hard to tell with the reptilian features. His head crest shifted from aggressive red to a more neutral bronze. "These are qualities we value highly in our warrior culture. You are now formally recognized as kin healer to my bloodline." Riley blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "It is a great honor," Vriss said quietly, her mandibles barely moving, antennae still flat. "The highest honor a warrior clan can bestow on a medical professional. It has not been granted to an outsider in 3 generations. It also means," Zhao continued, kneeling down again to be closer to Riley's eye level, "that you are now under my clan's protection. Any who harm you answer to me personally. Any who question your medical decisions answer to me personally. Any who disrespect your judgment answer to me personally." Torres laughed from his stretcher, then groaned from the pain moving his ribs. "Riley's got herself an alien family. This is the best day of my life. Wait until command hears about this. Torres, I swear. You will also," Zhal added, standing back to his full height, his scales catching the emergency lighting, "be expected to attend clan gatherings. There is one next month. 17 cycles by your calendar. It celebrates the coming of age for 3 of my other offspring. Your attendance is now mandatory as kin healer." Riley looked down at the cub pressed against her leg, then at Torres grinning despite his injuries. then at Catherine's pale scales slowly returning to normal bronze, then at Vriss's drooping antennae, then at Parker's shocked expression, and the gathering crowd of soldiers, then finally back at Zhal's scarred face. Can I at least finish my shift first? Zhal's laugh sounded like rocks grinding together, deep and genuine. His head crest flared bright bronze, apparently a sign of amusement. Yes, finish your shift, human. My cub will wait, though I suspect it will not wait quietly. The cub chirped in agreement, then grabbed another item from Riley's medical kit, a stethoscope this time, and tried to put it around its own neck like it had seen Riley wear it. It got tangled immediately, chirping in frustration. Riley sighed and bent down to untangle the cub, her hands gentle despite her exasperation. You're gonna be a handful, aren't you? The cub licked her hand with a tongue that was definitely not designed for affection, but made the attempt anyway, its triangular pupils all focused on her face at once. And Riley realized with creeping horror that her life had just gotten infinitely more complicated. But both patients were stable, and that was what mattered, even if one of them was now apparently her adopted alien nephew with a powerful warrior father who could probably level the entire base if he wanted to. Medic Riley, Zhal said formally, placing one scarred hand over his chest in what was clearly a salute. You have my gratitude and my respect. The clan will remember this day. Parker whistled low from the entrance. That's either the best thing that's ever happened to you, or the worst. Can't tell yet. Both, Riley muttered, watching the cub try to grab more medical supplies. Definitely both.